Welcome to WION's special election show, Race to Power. I'm Ananya Datta, and this is what we have lined up for you. The race for the White House will officially begin this coming Monday. We have reached the starting line early to give you a crash course on how the process actually works in the United States. China is well known for its age-old tactics to peddle its propaganda in Taiwan. But with changing times, China's tactics are also changing. It is allegedly using TikTok videos to turn the upcoming election result on its side. We will tell you how. Now, the race for the White House will officially begin on January 15th, that is coming Monday. The long season of primaries will kickstart in Iowa with the Republican Caucus. Candidates have intensified their campaign in the state, with top contenders holding rallies and addressing supporters in the state. Former President Donald Trump is widely expected to win the caucus, as he is leading the polls over his Republican contenders with a wide margin. Not only Iowa, but Trump has overshadowed the Republican presidential race for this year. Despite facing 91 criminal charges, Trump has only widened his lead in the race.
First in the nation, it begins right here in Iowa on January 15th, and Joe Biden's Banana Republic ends on November 5th, 2024. That's what it is. And with your help, we're going to bring back our country. We're going to bring it back from hell, because this country has been in hell.
However, an analysis of poll data for every Iowa caucus since 1984 suggests that it's not too late for another candidate to surge. So Trump's contenders are leaving no stones unturned. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says nominating Donald Trump would make the 2024 election about his legal troubles, rather than the nation's ills under President Joe Biden. The statement came hours after Trump appeared in court to argue that he is immune from prosecution. Meanwhile, Nikki Haley is busy attacking incumbent President Joe Biden directly to project herself as a better choice for the Republicans. On the other hand, Vivek Ramaswamy has been hosting unique free speech and free drinks events in a bid to entice students to support him in the upcoming caucus votes.
When it then combined with the second religion.
Now, caucuses are part of the complex U.S. presidential election process, and Iowa has a special place as it is the first state to hold a caucus in this year's race. In the next 2 minutes, we will try and break it down for you. A caucus simply is a grassroots gatherings of a particular political party. So it's different than a primary, which is more like a traditional election. Some U.S. states hold caucuses while some hold primaries, and the rest hold both primaries and caucuses for different parties. Caucuses do not directly select a presidential candidate. Rather, they elect delegates. Now, these delegates then head to the party's national convention, where they vote for the presidential candidate who gets the most support for the caucus. After each primary or caucus, some candidates drop out of the race due to lack of support from the party. In the end, 2 candidates, one each from the 2 main parties, are nominated for the presidential race. Now, on 15th of January, Iowa Republicans will be the first Americans to vote for a presidential nominee. But there will be no polling places. Party activists will host gatherings in each of the 1,600 precincts of the state. The gatherings are held in local gyms, churches, or even living rooms of the voters. Then, representatives for the presidential candidates who will be present in each of the precincts in Iowa will speak one by one. Following this, the attendees write down who they want to vote on a blank piece of paper. Volunteers then count the votes and report them up the chain. While this is the process, in reality, not many people attend these caucuses. It's near impossible for office or college goers, or if one has to take care of their kids or pets. Adding to all of this, Iowa is having heavy snowfall and a winter storm. In this backdrop, the caucus will be held around 7 p.m. in the dead of winter, that too on a Monday. Weather forecasts say it could be as cold as -8 degrees on the caucus night. Now for more on this, we are being joined by our correspondent Susan Terani from New York. Susan, thanks for joining us here on this broadcast. Now, over the years, we have seen that Iowa being inconsistent in predicting the race winner. However, there is another school of thought that thinks that Iowa is a testing ground for presidential candidates. Could you explain this complexity and which one could actually play out this year?
Yeah, I wish I had that crystal ball about what would happen this year in Iowa. You're right. You know, when President Trump was running the first time, Ted Cruz won Iowa, but then President Trump went into the general elections. But for the most part, the past few decades, really, Iowa has been a testing ground for what would happen in the generals. On the other hand, you know, we have to take into consideration that this year is very significant because Donald Trump is leading by a very high margin compared to his rivals. We do know that Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis will have a debate tonight in Iowa, hosted by CNN. They will be the only people on stage. Donald Trump decided not to go, but Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie, they didn't even qualify. Donald Trump is going to have his own town hall on Fox News during the time that that debate is happening. But the question remains, you know, if we're going to try to figure out what happens at Iowa, well, I mean, how much would there be a surprise when there is just like 20, 30 points difference between first and second place?
Absolutely, Susan. It looks like a close race. Thank you so much for joining us here in this broadcast and getting us all those developments from the ground. Let's shift our focus now. China has vowed that it will never compromise on Taiwan, just 3 days ahead of a crucial election on the self-ruled island. The closely watched polls will impact the future of Taiwan's independence, and China is being accused of attempting to influence voters to pick candidates who favor reunification. The accusations include military threats, diplomatic pressure, fake news, and financial lures. Deepfakes to social media videos are increasingly being reported, especially on the Chinese-owned video platform TikTok. They are aimed at DPP candidate Lai Ching-te, who backs Taiwan's independence. Experts and Taiwanese officials alike have linked this wave of disinformation to Beijing.
China is interfering in Taiwan's elections using many platforms developed with advanced technology such as WION or TikTok, which the Taiwan government is worried about. In addition, China is also using artificial intelligence to conduct cognitive warfare against Taiwan.
One such fraudulent video emerged in November. It showed Lai speaking to the press, with the audio altered to make it sound like he was praising his Beijing-friendly opponents. Taiwanese authorities took the video down and described it as an attempt to influence the voters. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, which oversees relations with China, has warned that China is using both economic and political means to impact the voters.
In response to the Chinese Communist authorities' repeated use of various means to intervene in Taiwan's elections in an attempt to influence voters, the Mainland Affairs Council severely condemned the Chinese Communist authorities. We advise China to stop using ineffective means and stop harming cross-strait relations.
Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Chan Shi-hung. He is the spokesperson for Mainland Affairs Council. Welcome to the broadcast, sir.
Hi,
right.
Just a correction. My name is Paul Huang.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Right. I would like to correct. We are being joined by Paul Huang from Taipei. He's a research fellow with Taiwan Public Opinion Foundation and also a journalist. I'm so sorry to name you incorrectly. Paul, if you could just start off now. We are seeing economic coercion, trade restrictions, and now, of course, we have done just a report on the disinformation. So when China says that Taiwan's elections are basically China's internal matters, how much of all of this do you think actually affects the voters?
I would say very little because look, China's agenda is to discredit Taiwan's democracy and its sovereignty as a whole. It's not to help a particular candidate or political party. So of course, the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, they're going to say that they're going to accuse China of interference to help boost their own elections, but we have not seen evidence of these large scale interference, either in the form of social media manipulations or money laundering, and to help any candidate in a large scale. So depending on how you look at it, you think that every time that Beijing use very overt coercion or threats on Taiwan, that seems to help the DPP, the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, which depends on how you look, it seems to be the party that Beijing dislikes the most. So if you're Beijing, you don't want to make it look very obvious. And even if you do it covertly, if you get caught, then that's also going to help DPP. And so I think this election, we have not seen that large-scale interference happening. And the majority of voters, they're not really buying this fear that the government is saying that there is this huge interference. They are judging the DPP, the ruling party, and casting their vote based on policies and candidates, and I think that's a better thing for Taiwan.
Right, Mr. Huang, it's interesting you say that, but according to China's Mission 2025, Xi Jinping aims for a peaceful reunification. So I want to ask you, in case Lai Ching-te wins the election, who is actually batting for the independence of Taiwan, what happens then?
Well, Lai has already stepped back from the things that he said many years ago. And ever since he became the vice president under President Tsai Ing-wen, and also during this election, he's saying that I will follow what President Tsai has done and his policy, which is not de jure independence. In fact, he has no such statement or no such agenda that shows that he has interest in such agenda. The policy of President Tsai over the last 8 years is what's called maintaining status quo. So they're not going to change the constitution, rename the country. In fact, I think based on the polls that we have done, like last October, we found like 48% of the Taiwanese they prefer long-term independence. Another like 30% they prefer status quo, which is basically Taiwan keeping away from China and not doing political negotiations. And then so this is what majority time people want. So if Lai Ching-te wins, he's going to keep this. Even if the opposition party wins, they're going to keep this. So they're not going to do much difference.
All right, Mr. Huang. Thank you so much for joining and getting us all those insights from Taipei.
Thank you for having me.
Now, attempts to influence Taiwan's elections could allow China to promote candidates who align with its vision of reunification. If we were to put a name to this vision, it would be that of KMT candidate Hua Yu-hee. But where does he stand in this race to power? Let's find out on WION's Power Explainer. Decades ago, Taiwan's main opposition
party, the Kuomintang or KMT, ruled mainland China, till it fled to Taiwan after losing in the 1949 Civil War against the Chinese Communist Party. But its relations with the CCP have only turned warmer since then. The KMT's party color is blue, but within the party, the deep blue faction that advocates the closest ties with China still holds significant power. Many of them are the descendants of the generation that fled from China in 1949 and still retain strong emotional ties to the mainland. In recent years, though, the KMT has faced an increasingly difficult balancing act in Taiwan. After decades in power, it has lost recent elections to the ruling party DPP. Even as it seeks close ties with China, it needs to remain relevant to young voters who possess a unique Taiwanese identity, which is why the KMT has had to dial down its message, insisting it is not pro-China but only pursues friendlier relations. For the January 13 polls, the party has fielded Hu Yui as its presidential candidate. The 66-year-old former cop is seen as a light blue moderate. He has been a mayor of New Taipei City since 2018. In 2022, he was re-elected as mayor with a landslide victory. Recently, Hu has responded to China's renewed vow of unification, saying he would forever protect Taiwan's democratic system and freedom. It is therefore unclear to voters whether a KMT government would necessarily be able to appease Beijing and guarantee peace. The party says their contest with the DPP is a choice for voters between war and peace. But this narrative reflects an attempt to reconcile two different sides and present a coherent argument. And if they succeed in this attempt, will the Kuomintang act by its official English name of the Chinese Nationalist Party? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Now in India, politics over the Ram Temple invite turned a new page today. The Congress said it will skip this year's flagship event, the inauguration of the grand Ram Temple in the city of Ayodhya. The party's refusal to attend the high-profile event is the latest flashpoint between the Congress and the BJP ahead of the general elections. Hitting out at the BJP and its ideological parent, the RSS, Congress dubbed the Ram Temple as a political project. The party said that its leaders, party chief Mallikarjun Kharge, his predecessor Sonia Gandhi and the party's leader in the lower house, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, who received the invitation, have all declined to attend the event. In a statement, senior Congress leader Jairam Ramesh said, the inauguration of the incomplete temple by the leaders of the BJP and the RSS has been obviously brought forward for electoral gain. The BJP was quick to hit back. Minister Anurag Thakur said that the Congress is boycotting the temple inauguration. People of India will boycott them in the future.
रामलला के केस में हराने के लिए खड़ी कर दी थी। ये वही कांग्रेस है जो बार बार राम के नाम पर आलोचना करती है। ये वही कांग्रेस है जो राम सेतु से लेके अन्य बातों पर भी विरोध ही करती आई है। इसमें कुछ भी नया नहीं है और ये तो होना ही था। कांग्रेस ने कभी अपने सहयोगियों के माध्यम से सनातन धर्म को कुचलने की, तो कभी सनातन धर्म को खत्म करने की बात कही, तो कभी कांग्रेस ने हिंदू आतंकवाद की बात कही। ये कांग्रेस एक नहीं अनेक बार हिंदुओं को नीचा दिखाने की बात, तो कभी भगवान राम को काल्पनिक कहने की बात करती है। मैं इतना ही कहूँगा, आज कांग्रेस ने अगर प्राण प्रतिष्ठा की समारोह की बाइकॉट किया है, तो साफ दिखता है कि हिंदुस्तान की जनता भी आने वाले समय में इनका बाइकॉट ही करने वाली है।
Several opposition parties, including the Left and Trinamool Congress, have also made it clear that they would skip the event as well. According to reports, two former Prime Ministers, Manmohan Singh and S.D. Devegowda, have also received invites from the Ram Temple Trust. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will take part in the consecration ceremony at the temple on January 22nd, as the first phase of the temple nears completion. The Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid case was set to rest after a historic top court verdict back in 2019. The apex court backed the construction of a Ram temple at the disputed site and ruled that an alternative 5-acre plot must be found for building a mosque. The refurbished temple town is gearing up to host thousands on the big day, during which schools and colleges across the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh will remain shut. The event will be telecast live across the country and many places abroad. Now, staying on the political developments coming in from India, the Speaker of the Maharashtra State Assembly has given his verdict in the months-long tussle between two factions of the Shiv Sena. Now, the Speaker ruled that the Chief Minister Eknath Shinde-led Shiv Sena faction is the real Shiv Sena party. The decision is a setback to former Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, whose government was reduced to a minority after the Shinde faction broke away from the party. The Assembly Speaker cited the Supreme Court orders that the 2018 amended constitution of Shiv Sena cannot be considered valid. The Speaker said that the head of the party does not have the power to remove anyone from the party. He also ruled that since the Shinde faction already has the support of 37 legislators, it is the only Shiv Sena. The Speaker also upheld the appointment of the chief whip of the party. However, the Speaker did not disqualify the 16 MLAs of the Uddhav Thackeray faction from the Assembly. The dispute dates back to June of 2022, when Eknath Shinde and a group of Sena MLAs rebelled against then Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, claiming that the party was losing its identity under him. Hours after the Shinde's rebellion, Uddhav Thackeray's group passed a resolution removing him as the leader of the legislative party. The same day, the Shinde group passed a resolution affirming Shinde as the leader of the legislative party. The matter was then taken to the Supreme Court, and the Shinde group formed the government after joining hands with the Bharatiya Janata Party. The Supreme Court ruled that the Speaker of the House has the final authority to decide on such matters. However, now that the Speaker has given his verdict, the Thackeray faction can still move the court against the ruling. The state of Maharashtra is set to see elections in October this year, months after the national elections that are likely in April or in the month of May. Now, for more on this, our principal correspondent Disha Shah has sent us a report from Mumbai. Take a look.
Maharashtra's Chief Minister Eknath Shinde is the real Shiv Sena leader, and the Shiv Sena-led faction, that is the Eknath Shinde-led faction, is the real Sena political party. That is the rule and the verdict coming in by the State Assembly Speaker today while pronouncing its verdict on the disqualification of the MLA plea in the state of Maharashtra. This is the important and the most significant because this rules in the favor of the Eknath Shinde government, and it comes much before the Lok Sabha and the Assembly polls. And on the other side, this is a major setback for the Uddhav Thackeray-led faction as several verdicts were pronounced against the Uddhav Thackeray-led faction. The Speaker went on to say that Uddhav Thackeray-led faction did not really have any power to remove Eknath Shinde as the party leader way back in 2022. As far as Uddhav Thackeray is also concerned, there is no need to disqualify 16 MLAs, including Eknath Shinde, because there is no valid ground to do so. So this, of course, is again a setback for the Uddhav Thackeray-led faction. Thirdly, the Speaker continued to say that the Eknath Shinde-led faction is the real political party and they also have the right to appoint the whip. With video journalist Siddesh, this is Disha Shah reporting here for WION World from Mumbai.
And with that, we are wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching.